At 9 meters long and weighing as much as 11 tons, the Steller sea cow was a true gentle giant. Related to the modern dugong, these animals were cruelly wiped off the planet in as little as 25 years after they were initially discovered. Now, these amazing beasts lived in the stretch of ocean between Russia and Alaska, and they were formally discovered in 1741 by German naturalist Georg Wilhelm Steller. Steller and his crew were sent to the Bering Strait for an expedition, and it's here that they were shipwrecked on a small chain of islands. So with a bunch of time to kill as they waited for their rescue, Steller spent this opportunity to examine the wildlife that inhabited these islands. And it was during his time on these islands that he managed to find this incredible beast, which he called Steller's sea cow. These sea cows lived in shallow waters around the island, never coming on land but instead walking along the seabed where they grazed mainly on kelp. These animals were extremely docile too, not having any natural predators and having never seen humans before. The crew members could simply swim up to one of these herds and tread water as they all grazed around you. They didn't even mind the large oars of the boats intruding their space. Because of this, these animals made amazing targets for hunting. Other interesting behaviours documented included the fact that they lived in small social groups, mating monogamously with just one mate. If a group member was hunted, the rest of the group would aggressively attempt to save them by pulling on the ropes and trying to tip over the boats that the sailors were in. Now, once killed, the partner of the hunted sea cow would often return to the hunting site for days after, either looking for the lost female, or perhaps they're exhibiting a form of mourning behaviour, which is extremely uncommon in the animal kingdom. It was clear to Steller that these animals were capably intelligent, with some interesting social structure. However, Steller and his crew did also find them very tasty. Due to their docile behaviour and very large size, the shipwrecked crew easily sustained off these animals. One large male could sustain a 30-man crew for an entire month. One thing in particular Steller noted was how tasty the meat was, apparently being very similar to beef or veal. The meat kept a lot longer than other meats, the blubber made great butter and could be burnt in oil lamps without any smoke whatsoever. The skins were also ideal for boots and belts as well as skins for boats. Every bit of this animal could be utilised, which made them extremely useful for the shipwrecked crew and other sailors in the future. As you see, once Steller published his findings and people started to learn about these animals, very quickly the island that Steller was originally shipwrecked on became a common stopover for sailors and explorers. By hunting the Steller's sea cow, fur traders and seal hunters could now easily sustain a crew and even make some money on the side selling any extra meat or fat they had gathered. Hunting methods for these animals was very wasteful. A hunter would spear the animal and it would swim out to sea where it would later die, and the carcass would then be retrieved for the crew. However, only 1 in 5 of these carcasses were actually recovered. Some of the bodies would just be lost and the crew would then have to hunt another sea cow. Other crews may have harpooned multiple sea cows at one time and just retrieved the first body they came across. This method was far from sustainable. Due to the utility of the animal and the tastiness of the meat, they were hunted very quickly. The long gestation period of pregnancy for these animals, which was over 1 year, meant that populations had no chance of recovery, as they were hunted far more quickly than they could reproduce. It took just 27 years after Steller's initial discovery of the sea cow for them to be hunted completely to extinction. Though the Europeans were responsible for wiping out the entire population of Steller's sea cow, there are hypotheses to suggest that they were on the decline anyway, with their original range covering a much larger area. They were probably hunted by the native peoples of the Bering Strait for 2,000 years prior, slowly reducing their numbers. The Aboriginal people also hunted otters. With a reduction in otter population, the sea urchin population flourished as otters were one of the primary predators. Sea urchins eat kelp, the main component of the sea cow's diet. With an increase in sea urchins, there was more competition for kelp, and this could have reduced the sea cow population. Though this is just a hypothesis, it's a great example of how fragile ecosystems and animal populations can be, and how humans can unknowingly change the flow of energy within an ecosystem. This pattern of humans hunting and killing giant animals is extremely common, with humans being responsible for the extinction of hundreds of species of megafauna. In this series of videos, I'm going to cover some of the biggest and most remarkable animals that humans ever walked alongside with, as well as what factors led to their eventual demise.